Hello everyone, I'm here with a video of a different nature today. As a lot of you know, I'm a knife enthusiast, and lately I've begun making lanyards for my knives. So this one in particular here was a Civivi Elementum button lock that my wife purchased for my birthday. Liked it very much. Where I live, it's over the legal blade limit to conceal, so one of the things I did to make it a little more noticeable, besides the pocket clip, is to put a lanyard on it. Whoops, drop that. But I figure if you put a lanyard on it and a cop sees it and says, "Hey, is that a knife in your pocket?" It's like, yes. Because if he saw it, it's not concealed. But anyway. Plus, I don't know, I kind of think it's kind of cool. So, anyway, I'm going to show you how to make one of these today. This particular one is done using a snake knot. You don't have to put a bead on it. The bead I have is actually a little bit better than this one. This one was a little too narrow for my liking. It looks a little too cinched in. But I'm going to use one that's a little more plain and a little plain, a little bulkier actually, so I think it'll look better. Now, this particular one right here is about 4.5 inches. You can make these an inch or two long, you can make them a foot long. Really, whatever you like. So keep that in mind. So if I'm making this and you say, "Oh, that's okay, but I'd like a longer one," make a few extra knots. You want it shorter? Make fewer knots. So what I'm going to start out with today, I should say, is this bead. I'm going to put that off to the side for now. This was pretty cheap. I think this cost me about maybe 40 cents in a package from Amazon. And the other thing I'm going to start out with, of course, and this is the only other thing we really need, is a piece of paracord. This piece of paracord is 3 feet long, and it'll give us something that's around maybe 5.5 inches to 6 inches. Now, you can play around with this. If you only want like a 2 or 3 inch lanyard, could probably get away with maybe 1.5 feet, although the first time you do it, I'd probably err towards going a little bit longer, because if you have a little extra paracord, you can just chop it off. If you don't have enough, well, you're kind of out of luck. So, first thing I did here was, and this is something you don't have to do, is I like to singe the ends. Now this is 550 paracord, and as you probably know, it has 7 strands in it, and they're almost kind of a little plasticky, so I kind of burn those with a lighter. So I'm going to put those together here so that everything is nice and equal. And let's see, I'm going to be off camera for just a second, but after I get the ends equal and nice and even, I'm going to pinch the top here. I'm just going to make a little bit of a crease with my fingers. And then I kind of like eyeball like 2.5 inches. I like to have the loop about 2.5 inches, because if you're making it for someone else and you don't know what kind of knife they might be using, you don't know how much room you need. I think 2.5 inches is good. Now, for you, 2 inches might be great, 3 inches might be better. You might like the look of more of a loop there. You know, it's personal preference. So now, as you can see here, we got two straight loops. We have the left and the right. So I'm going to take this left loop, this left string I should say, and I'm going to bring it behind these two at the top. Kind of keep an eye on my thumb right here. I'm going to bring it behind here, and then as you can see, I have this loop over here. Okay, right there we have the loop. So I'm going to get this strand right here that was off to the side, and I'm going to bring it underneath this one right here. And then I'm going to bring it through, and then I'm going to put it through this loop that we made. Okay, and then you pull it over. Now I tend to keep a little bit of pressure on this, because I want to keep that location kind of in check, because I think that's about 2.5 inches. So as you can see, I have a nice loose knot there. So what I like to do is, on the first knot, I like to just measure it up on the ruler, because like I said, I like them to be somewhat somewhat uniform when I make them. So if you can tell right here, it might be a little bit of a glare. I'm about maybe 1/4 inch from being 2.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this, but I'm going to like squeeze the knot a little bit so it doesn't go moving too much. And then I'll remeasure. Now, like I said, I like 2.5 inches. If it's a little over, a little under, I don't sweat the small stuff. But, you know, I think we need just a little bit more there. So let's see. And sometimes I could just get them up a little bit more just by squeezing them. Other times you might have to actually undo the knot just a little bit. So, yeah, we're right about 2.5 inches. Happy day. Okay, so as you can tell, we have our first knot, and I pulled it pretty tight, so we should be good. Now the rest of this is kind of repetitive. The first, few knots I made, it was kind of like a little difficult to kind of remember, but once you get it down, it's just really repetitive and goes quickly. So just show it again. So I take the left, I pull the left behind, and I feed it through, so we have a little loop here. And then I take the right, put the right under, and I put it through that little loop. Now I slowly pull it on, and I do that slowly because what I want to do is I pull a little bit on each side first, because I want to make sure it snugs up to the other knot pretty well. And then I pull like the left a little, the right a little, left a little, right a little. So, and you're going to want to make sure you pull these pretty tight, because that reduces the likelihood of these coming off. And as you can see there, we have two near identical knots, really, pretty similar. So that's good. So then we get the left, we put the left behind, and then we take this right one, we put it under the left, and we put it through the loop. And the other nice thing about these is, like, I'm using it as a knife lanyard, but I also use it on my car key. I don't keep my car key on my regular keychain because, believe it or not, my old car, it was so heavy that it would pull the loosen the key in the ignition. So I keep my my car key separate, and I actually put an orange paracord lanyard just like this on there, and it's pretty darn awesome because not only do I fish it out of my pocket super quick. One time I dropped my keychain in the dark, and the bright orange really stuck out like a sore thumb, and I found it in seconds. So it's pretty handy for those things too. Also, if you have a couple of keychains or a couple of keys, it'll help show you, like, maybe one of them is special, like you want to maybe have your house key with a certain lanyard on it, or a shed key. I don't know. Whatever you want to kind of set apart, And like I said, it's kind of easy to fish around. Okay, so we got that one there. So the way I've been doing it, I find it's good to have 8 knots. But again, that's because I like that length. Now, you might see this lanyard and think, cool lanyard, but it's a little too long for my liking. Try cut a couple of knots out. You might think it's a really cool lanyard, but it's not long enough. Add a few more knots. And then you can add them above or below the bead. I've been doing 8 knots above the bead, 3 below the bead. And like I said, for my taste, I think that works out pretty well. Now, the other thing you should be aware of is this is 550 paracord. So 550 paracord's a little thicker to work with. And besides being thicker to work with, it has more strength, more break strength and stuff. So some people like to have this for survival purposes too, because let's say you're in a situation where you need cordage. Oh, you got 3 feet on you. It's probably not going to save your day, but you never know when 3 feet of cordage comes in handy. The other thing is, if you purchase this on either Amazon or Hobby Lobby, I'll put a link. Actually, you know what I'll do in the description? I'll put a link to the paracord that I got at Amazon, because I bought this at Amazon for about $9 for 100 feet. Good deal. And I'll also put a link to the beads that I used in this, and I think those are like $7.50 for 20 of them, I believe. So I'll throw that in there also. Now this one looks like it might be a little crooked, so I'm just going to kind of pull up on that just a little bit, kind of help put it with the other guys. There we go. That's a happy family. Okay, 6. So I'm going to do 2 more here. Yes, I'll put the links to the paracord and the bead there. Now, one word on paracord. Sometimes you'll see people selling paracord, and they'll just say it's paracord. There's all different strengths of paracord. Like there's actually, I use the 550, which I think is very useful and popular. There's also an 1100 paracord, which is even stronger, but I don't know how that would lend itself to knotting. I've never knotted with it, so just so you're aware, you might want to give it a try. Maybe I'll try it one day, but I haven't to this point. Then there's also, I believe, 275 paracord, and then there's like a 95 paracord. So we have 7 knots so far, so we need 1 more here. Now, you might like using the thinner paracord to knot with, because if you wanted like a thinner lanyard, that would work for you pretty well. Now some people might not want that, because if you have this on you kind of as an extra insurance policy to be sure you always have cordage on you, then I would stick with the 550. If you just want it just because you like the idea of the lanyard and you think it'll help you find stuff and you think it looks cool, then you might be fine with the 275 or the 95. But if you want this basically for like, you know, extra, I call it extra survival insurance, because having the extra is good. Sometimes this will twist around as you make it, but what I do is I'll just take a nice tight grip and I'll kind of twist it the opposite direction, and it straightens out nicely. So right here, let's count together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 knots. They look pretty uniform to me, so I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to get this bead. So now the bead that I'm going to put on here, I find it's easier to put it over one than kind of squeeze the other one into it. You're going to have to kind of squeeze the cord a little bit sometimes. That one went on pretty easy. And then if you just give it a little push, it doesn't go all the way up. I like to kind of like force it all the way up, like really like into the knot. And then we'll start again. So what we'll do is we'll put the left side, as you're looking at it, around. Then we'll put this right one underneath, over and through. And again, this is called the snake knot. It's like the easiest knot there is. Some of these are ridiculously confusing, I have to tell you. This one I picked up pretty easily, and there's a lot you can do with it, but some of these, I mean, you can use different colors and make some really awesome patterns. But if this is something you want to get into, I would make sure that you get used to the paracord and working with this one first, because this is just such an easy knot. I think it kind of helps your dexterity, muscle memory, and whatnot. Then you can go into some of the other knots, which again are super cool knots. You can do some really awesome stuff with it. But I wouldn't jump into that as your first knot, because they could drive you crazy. I tried to do the one that looked really, really cool, and it drove me crazy. As you could tell from my red fingers, I'm trying to pull these really tight so they don't come out. So whoever ends up with this gets a nice, tight, well-made knot. And you can see here, I have 2 here, so I will do one more. I feel like the more you put down here, the more secure it is. But if you put too many, then I think it looks kind of weird. Because then instead of having the bead near the end, the bead's kind of like in the middle, and I don't think that looks good. Again, my personal preference. So I think it's better to have the bead at like around roughly the 2/3 to 3/4 point lengthwise. Might think it looks better midway, or right to the very end, or maybe near the top. There really aren't any rules in this. The only rule is, you know, the shape of the knot, and the shape of the knot, and just make sure you pull them tight, because you don't want it coming apart on you, or if you make it as a gift for somebody. Okay, so we are almost done here. Now, there are 2 more steps that you're going to want to do. Now, I tend to cut these down, which I'll do off camera. I tend to cut them down about this length right here. Okay, so I usually leave them maybe about 1/3 of an inch. Now, when you do this, the ends are going to be frayed, so you have to singe them with a lighter. The singeing them with the lighter will take you about 1.5 seconds, because what will happen is the strands inside, the 7 white strands, they will melt along with these ends right here. So, you know, now these are usually like bright white, but because I guess the black was on the outside, it kind of made them like a brownish. If you want to touch it up a little bit, you can reduce it a little bit with a Sharpie, but it kind of stays like that. You can also kind of pinch it, and that might help a little bit there. But what I would do, basically cut them over here, and then singe them a little bit quickly, and then it just kind of looks like this. Okay, and then you have these 2 things hanging down, and again, you can leave them 1 inch long, 2 inches long, 3 inches long. You can leave them 4.5 feet long, really, for all I care. Whatever you like. and then you got this 2.5 inches. Now if you have a knife like a Spyderco, you know, what you're going to have to do is put this through the lanyard hole, snake it through, and then snake this through that hole. So you want to make sure it's pliable enough to fit through and that this loop is long enough. And for most knives it will be. Other knives you can't do this because, like with this particular knife here, I actually had to make this on the knife because this doesn't have like a lanyard hole like a Spyderco would. It just kind of has a pin, so I had to snake that piece of paracord through, make this the midway point, and then I did the knot here. So the good thing about that is it's perfectly suited for the knife. The bad thing is if I get sick of this, I just have to cut it off. I can't, you know, I'm kind of stuck in that regard. So there you go. Knives are a little different. Your paracord lanyards will be a little different. So hope I gave you something fun to have. And remember, you can use these for knife lanyards. You can use them for keychains. You can use them for zipper pulls, which I gotta tell you, I really like the idea of using them for zipper pulls. If you're going to use them for zipper pulls, if you have a wide opening, then you can just kind of fish this into the square on the zipper. You pull it through, you know, so you have this loop like this, and then you just feed this through there and pull it through, and you've got a really awesome, very durable zipper pull. So you can use that on lunch boxes, backpacks, I mean jackets, I mean anything that you cases, anything you need to put a zipper pull on, obviously. Well, you can use it for your knives. You can use it for keychains. Another good thing is if any of you guys have like very small flashlights, you can throw it on there too. And then I would suggest if you're going to be outdoors, maybe using a bright color too. I used a lot of very bright orange, and I've seen some like fluorescent yellow around. That might be good too. Now this one I just used the black one because I wanted to match it, and I've done that with some of my other knives. I bought some red because I had a red Civivi, I think it's a Mastodon, a red Civivi Mastodon, so I bought the red paracord to match. But it's also a good idea to maybe consider making it a bright color, because like I said, with my key, dropped it on a black asphalt driveway, and you know, it was the way my truck was, it was kind of shadowed from the light. Well, between the black driveway, being nighttime, and being in a shadow, it's kind of tough to find. I found it right away. A couple of seconds, it was just like on the ground. And what I saw was not the black key, I saw the orange fob or lanyard. That's open to argument. So like I said, this particular one, just to leave you here, will end up being, once I cut it, just a hair over 6 inches, because I'll cut it right here. So have fun, make some lanyards, put lanyards on your stuff. They're cool. Makes you feel like you did something. Give them to your friends. I actually gave a couple of these to my wife, and she was convinced she wasn't going to like them. Then she likes them. So there you go. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Consider subscribing. And like I said, I'll put some of those Amazon links on the bottom for the beads and for the paracord. So talk to you later.